Hey everyone, and welcome to Ink Spotlights from Comix Wellspring. This is the series where we shine the spotlight on immensely talented creators who print with us. Today, we're joined by Nick Burchard, who we're going to talk about some of his projects, his current Kickstarter, and a little bit more. Nick, it's great to see you. How are you today? And tell us about your Kickstarter.
Hello, Comix Wellspring. I am honored to be here. So I'm Nick Burchard. I'm the creator of Vulture Culture. It's the webcomic on my Instagram, Tiny Viking Design. And right now we are doing a collection of 2 years worth of comics from Vulture Culture. And so I'm here to talk to Brandon, and I'm here to talk about the Kickstarter.
Dude, 2 years worth of work inside of one book. One, where did this journey begin where you started like formulating the series? And did you imagine it going on for this long to have this collected edition?
So funny story, actually. So the whole story really came to life when I was talking to one of my friends, Haley. She used to work in goth retail and at Hot Topic, and I was talking to her. She was in one of my films, and I was talking to her about all her war stories, because I never got to work at Hot Topic. I actually applied there 3 times, and they rejected me every single time. I guess I wasn't goth enough or cool enough to work there. So but I showed them.
They'd be laughing now.
Now it's birds. But yeah, so I was talking to her about it. I was like, wow, this would make a really, really good, good movie. It would make a really good, comic about the dying mall and, goth people who work at the mall. And I was like, damn, it's genius. And, retail workers, they serve you, but that doesn't mean they have to like you. And, sure enough, Kevin Smith made that movie already. He made both those movies. He made Mallrats and Clerks. So basically I was like, okay, well, I love this idea. I know I can do something interesting with it. So what do? I've always wanted to do a daily strip. So I made kind of my version of the Peanuts. I made my version of, Zitz. I made my version of Garfield. And essentially I took my love of the Kevin Smith movies, and I took this idea of, my friend working in gothic retail, and I was like, what animal best represents, number one, goth people and the world of the dying mall?
It's amazing.
Vultures.
It's amazing.
And it hit me. I was in the car with my mom, and I'm like, it's got to be vultures, right? She goes, absolutely. And I'm like, what do I call it? And we were like, Vulture Culture. It's really like, it's like those biopic moments where it's like, say that again.
Oh, dude, that's
but yeah,
great.
I've been doing it 2 years. It's like the thing I'm most known for comics wise, and I have so much fun making it.
What,
So,
like, when you're formatting a comic strip, when we talk about stuff like craft and, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, when you're doing a comic, and I know you do film stuff as well. And so we kind of have this stuff like stuck in our heads on like, we need to have something happen here to, make a page turn and things like that. How do you think about things like that when you're doing a strip? Like, what really keeps your structure going to tell a story in there? For, I guess, more advice for people who want to make their own comic strip to start off like that.
of course. So, the way that I really go about writing, I don't plot at all. I don't do any plotting. I mean, I get ideas for where I want things to go. And I guess this is more broader story structure and all of that stuff, but I don't plot. What I do is I create characters that I'm really interested in, and I find out what they're interested in, and I just let them talk to each other. And, Jim Davis, Garfield, has I've researched a lot of Garfield making this trip. He's got a great quote where, Garfield's already funny. So all I have to do is put Garfield in a funny situation, and I just let him be funny. So I've kind of trusted my characters with this particular strip. So I guess any advice I would have is create a character that you find funny, that you find interesting. I mean, not every comic strip is going to be funny, but just find a character that you find interesting and just let them live their life. And
dude,
write it down.
That's essentially it. And it sounds so simple, you know what I mean? And that's what comic strips essentially are. They're very much a simplified way of telling a joke, a hook, a story. And it's one of those things where it sounds so easy because it's smaller, it's shorter, it's more condensed. You want to minimalize it. But I feel like sometimes that's the most difficult thing to do, is to like literally strip it down to its most basic things. And how do we get something out of it in between 1 to 6 panels typically?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's like
Yeah.
one of those things where I feel like craft, you need to know your craft to even initiate that type of work at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I've been drawing comics for many, many, many years. I started. I think I tracked it a while ago when I was like, when did I actually start drawing like Batman, Superman, those kinds of things? And really, the first comic I ever made was like when I was like 3, 4 years old, and it was called Super Piggy. So I've always loved kind of weird animal comics. I guess I'm not a furry, I promise. Everybody always asks. I have so many furries that follow my page, and they're lovely. They're lovely
You'll
people.
kill it at
Um,
Dragon Con, I'm sure then at that
yeah,
point.
I've been so many of them. They're like, "You gotta come, you gotta come." I'm like, "I'll come someday." You know, I love them. They're great. But yeah, so I've always kind of done these animal comics, and then I did vampire books, and I have a Viking series that I've always wanted to do, and yeah, so I've just been doing comics forever, and my harshest critics have always been my parents. Every time I remember, even when I was a kid, I would come downstairs and I would show them a drawing, and they don't draw, but they're very good at like bull crap detectors. So they were like
Mm.
that proportion's wrong, and like when I was 8 years old, I'm like it's not supposed to be right. I'm eight, you know? and uh, and they would be like, well, if you want to get better, this is like, do you want notes or do you want encouragement? And I was like, I always wanted notes because I always wanted to get better with the craft. So yeah, my parents, even nowadays I show them a comic and or I post one on Instagram and I call them and like, oh, did you see it? And they're like, yeah, that one didn't get a lot of likes. I'm like, ah, I'm like, get them next time. That
It's the
damn
It's
algorithm.
not me. It's the
It's the
algorithm.
algorithm.
Do you think that's benefited you having that type of criticism, or do you feel like it was more support that you're receiving throughout your journey?
I think criticism is a form of support. Really, I do, and I don't think they were being mean about it. Because they're good people, and that's to tie it back to the book. Really, I think that's a large portion of the book is the relationship between somebody who's trying to do something that is necessarily not going to be financially beneficial to them and a supportive parent. I mean, the whole point of the story is really about this young bird who runs the local goth store in the dying mall. So clearly, that is going to be something that is not going to be very financially viable in a few years, which is sad because I love them all. And her dad, Gene, so it's Avril and Gene. Gene used to be a roadie for lots of 1980s bird themed acts like Tailfeather and Egg of Death, and he basically, they both live in the same apartment. They both cover rent, and they're best friends. Her and her dad, and I just love that because I have a good relationship with my parents.
Oh,
You
dude,
know.
I love that. I love hearing that too. I get a lot of support from my dad as well, so I totally appreciate that. Whenever you get that type of support, it
Yeah.
really does help you carry on, because that could be where it stops a lot of creators. You know what I mean? Just that's what
Mhm.
stopped me from drawing as a kid. I felt like I was
Really?
getting harsh criticism, and it was discouraging instead of like a supportive criticism that was helping me grow and advance. So I kind of halted that, and I mean, I didn't start drawing again until I was in my 30s. So it goes to show, it's also never too late to start and getting these things going.
No, of course not.
Um,
No, and
oh,
I love that you're drawing again, man. That's really good because we were talking about this earlier, but the world needs more art,
yeah.
and all the stuff you're doing sounds really really awesome, man.
Oh, thank you so much for that.
So there's your
Yeah,
encouragement.
yeah, that's just keep me going for today. Dude, so this Kickstarter, you have a really cool goal. It's $2,000, and you also offer a whole lot inside of it. Do you want to cover any of the really cool
Yeah.
rewards you're having in it?
Yeah, of course. So this is my first time doing a Kickstarter for a comic book, and so we're trying to raise 2,500 just to kind of cover costs and all of that stuff. And what you can get is because I've kind of built a brand around this comic. To use a kind of a not so great creative term, but a brand around the comic. And I've got t-shirts, I've got stickers, I've got, tons of art, posters, stuff I've brought to cons and stuff. And I was like, if somebody's going to support a Kickstarter, I want them to have, I want them to know what this is. So I did a lot of, budgeting for this, and I really, really wanted to make sure that everybody who wanted a book could get a book. So it's an important part of it. And, the rewards are fun. So what you can get is you can get a print, you can get a T-shirt, or you can get a signed book plate or a book plate with a sketch in it.
Ooh,
Now I usually just love sketching, so I sketch on everything anyways. So just grab something; it'll probably have a bird on it.
love that. And then like you have like I'm seeing original drawing. Dude, the t-shirt's one of my favorite. The Hawk Topic t-shirt. Like that's just such a winner in general for you. You have some really
Thank
cool
you.
things. And also you're selling original work and original drawings and comic pages in there too. And I love seeing that from creators because I think that's something that, you know, especially if you're making your own art and your own comics and running a Kickstarter, doing these sketches, these sketch tiers, these page tiers, they make such a difference in your campaign. And so the more you offer, like what you're doing in your campaign, I think it's such a vital way to find success in a Kickstarter. So I think even for your first one, I feel like you're on the right track in what you're offering in your price ranges. It's so fair. It's you're getting good work out of it. You're getting like uh, creators can and fans and your audience can actually like have something to cherish by supporting you on this. And I mean, I know you don't do just bottom of the barrel anything, so I know it's going to be a beautiful, awesome thing that you're going to deliver and along your style and your theme of what you do.
So one of the cool things about this Kickstarter specifically is the $1,000 tier, and I understand that's an awful lot of money, but that's kind of one of the things where it's like, if you really want this project to take off, then you're going to get the best thing that I can offer
And
with
that's
this
going to
project.
fund half
And
the
that
project. You know what I mean? That's a
exactly
huge thing.
exactly, and that is an original comic page. Now this book is digital. I draw this book digitally, so this would be an entirely unique piece of artwork. And
Ooh,
I would post it to my Instagram. I would scan it in, and it would look like a normal comic, but this would actually be a physical artifact, and I would number it for you and everything. So that's kind of the cool thing there is there's a rarity to it because I do it digitally. I couldn't do this as consistent as I do it if I wasn't doing it digitally.
that makes
But yeah,
sense.
that's an important point.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's super rad. That's such a great thing to highlight too. I didn't even realize that by my quick glance, but dude, that shows so much value and what you're willing to pour into your Kickstarter. And I think all of us need to have stuff like that in our books. And you're also going to have a quite busy year this year too. I know you're lined up for Indie Creator Con here in March, which I'm super excited to see you. It's where we first met this past year, which was super exciting.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else lined up for you this coming year?
So I mean, I'm trying to do all the Massachusetts Comic Cons because I'm a Northeastern kid, and we've got a lot of good cons here. So I did Springfield Comic Con last year. I want to do Springfield Comic Con this year. I want to do Wicked Comic Con because they've got an incredible, show up there. I want to do Heroes Con, but I haven't heard back, so I don't know about that one.
Hmm.
And New York Comic Con is something I would really love to join, and if any furry cons want to reach out. Your boy's here.
Yeah, well, not deny it. It'll get us exposure. Honestly, branching out to different like conventions, like stuff that even we wouldn't even consider, seeing or doing sometimes. Sometimes that's where you find the most success, and it's strange, but you're like, I got to do this for the success of my art and my book, and it just that's
Mhm.
sometimes where our audience is, and it's kind of insane. And I think it trips us out where we find our demographics and where we're getting our art's getting pulled towards in general. Um,
Yeah, and it's a very interesting audience that I've collected with this weird book.
I love it, dude. Super exciting, Nick. I'm so hyped to, one, see you more this year in general. We have a spilled ink lined up for you this coming month leading into IC3 and a long form interview where we're going to talk all about, everything you've done, you do, your inspiration, what keeps you going. So please, everyone, go check that out. Nick, can people find your art or your books anywhere else besides the Kickstarter right now?
Yeah, of course. So people can find, honestly, the entire backlog of Vulture Culture. I don't hide it. I don't put it behind a paywall because I think comics are for everybody. So that's why the Kickstarter is there. If you want to support it, you can. So yeah, go to my Instagram, Tiny Viking Designs. That's where I post the most. And I have my website, Tiny Viking Designs, if you wanted to grab something else in the Kickstarter.
Awesome. Nick, thank you so much for stepping into the spotlight today. I can't wait to see you more in the next couple of months, and I hope you have a great one.
Likewise. Thank you.